This is WPSL Port St. Lucie.
The following is a paid program. The content is provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership are not responsible for the content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. And now, the host of the Team Martek Hour, Joe Martek.
Well, now we're ready. You see, you're getting sneakier. First you say, "Are you ready?" That was 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, and then I said, "Stand by at some point."
Does that mean you're not observant is what it is, Joe?
What's your name again? 340-1590, 340-1590. This is the team. No, it's the Dan, Joe, and Alan show.
Oh,
Victoria's coming.
We're the normal suspects.
She's supposed to be coming.
Is she really?
I had to fix that
Did
sentence.
she call?
Yes, she did.
Well, that's...
Yes. Yes.
Well, then we'll have to redecorate Alan.
Alan is really decorated in happiness.
He's ready for the holidays.
What happened?
The thing I want to talk about is the great Milwaukee Brewers Central Division champions
Whoever heard
taking
of that?
out the Chicago Cubs.
Well, you didn't expect the Cubs to win.
Certainly,
See,
Cubs
I
are not
didn't,
supposed
but
to
I'm a Cub fan.
at the
You're a Brew Crew guy.
Well, they once every 100 years they get to
Cubs
win.
aren't supposed to win.
I didn't even know they were playing.
I'm a fan. We're disappointed when they win.
You know the Cubs lost last night to Colorado 2-1 in 13 innings.
They're supposed to lose.
You mean, Alan, you're not impressed with what our boy that's running the country is doing right now?
His mind is on baseball.
That's a different subject, but I just had to open the show with my glee and happiness that a team that wasn't supposed to be anywhere near what they've done in the past 2 years has won their first division championship.
Sounds like the Don all over again.
That's what I'm saying.
Format.
I'm just like
make Milwaukee great again.
That's what our president should do. He should go up to Milwaukee now, but wait till they win the World Series. They've got to win 11 out of their next 19 games.
Yeah, but that's
were they like a
But
wild
that's after
card
the
or
election,
anything like
isn't
that?
it?
Because that's the only way the Cubs get in there, is if they're like the
wild
wild
card.
card team.
Well, the Cubs were wild card last
Yeah, they're
night
wild
with
card.
Colorado
Yeah.
and lost.
Well,
Back
that's
in
the way it should be.
'04, Dan Warren, independent insurance agent. Remember that word, folks, independent. Joe Martek, financial advisor. Greg Fasula, attorney, said, I forget who said it first.
It wasn't me.
It must have been
It
me.
must have been you.
Let's do radio shows. So a common buddy of ours said, I need to put a group together of local professionals that have credibility. And he says, my buddy Dan. I said, who ever heard of Dan? Nobody?
Nobody.
Let's go with Dan then. Well, Dan Warren, independent insurance agent, has only been in business pushing 40 years in the same area.
Same area. Well, here's a
You
little
moved the
thing.
office a little bit.
But just so you'll know, before I was in the insurance business, I worked for the United States Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
And my territory encompassed a good bit of Florida. And St. Lucie County was right in the middle. So that's why we moved here, so it would be easy for me to go wherever I had to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then when things changed and I decided to go in business for myself, we loved it here and we just stayed here.
Well, you're from Palm Beach County, just one county south or two counties
Two counties south.
Yeah.
And when we left Palm Beach County, it was because it was too crowded for us then.
Now it's
I can't
now
imagine.
it's twice as big. At
You know,
least.
when we start coming north from Palm Beach County and we pass Jupiter,
Yeah.
I go, oh, thank you, Lord, I'm almost home because
get a
it's
breath.
just crazy.
Yeah, I've been spending some time in Miami. But really, St. Lucie County, living here, you're 2 hours from Miami, you're 2 hours from Orlando.
Yeah.
It's a great location.
Well, hey, listen. I hope to die here, just not soon. I moved to Florida in 1976.
You've been here for a while.
And if I'm from Michigan, and if I never see Michigan again, that's almost too soon. I really miss
I thought
it.
you liked to visit your old stomping grounds.
No. I'd rather go up to Milwaukee and get beat up by a bunch of crazy beer drinkers in a bar.
That's a sore subject this week, isn't it?
Isn't that the truth? All of a sudden,
Just don't throw any ice.
I'm telling you what,
No
they-
ice throwing.
They are
It's bad.
looking.
It's really bad.
You know, if this doesn't convince more and more people to vote Republican, conservative for this midterm election, I don't know what else will. I mean, the economy is doing better than booming. Better. I mean, if it's not the best ever, it's got to be the second best.
Don't they sound a little insane?
Well, the Fed just said that it's the best economy in modern history.
Modern history.
Now, I don't know
But the Democrats will tell
history.
you can thank Barack Obama. He started it all.
Of course. We all know that.
Yes.
Well, and you know, I just get a kick out of it.
Well,
Like,
everything bad was George Bush's fault, and everything good that's happening now he'll take credit for that.
Of course.
Well, you know, you have to understand that you have to read between the lines, and you have to sort of decipher the tea leaves, and everything that's going on with Judge Kavanaugh. All of us sitting here predicted within reason exactly what's transpired. So it's not anything new, the obstruction and the delay tactics. It's just that I didn't really think that they would stoop to public humiliation of someone who has high standards and has an excellent track record. I was a little bit taken back by that.
You know how Chuck Schumer does his thing where he gets it all on the record and there's a camera there and he spouts off for how long and nobody else is in the room but him and the girl taking down the information. He said some really, really bad things yesterday. I mean, he really put Kavanaugh down on the record, and there are things that are like his opinion, not. But it was, you know, today Trump's all over the place, all the crawls underneath all of the news, how he's mocking, you know, Dr. whatever her name is.
Ford.
Yes.
Well, she is
but
definitely.
look what Chuck Schumer just did.
Yeah,
I know.
In my opinion, she is definitely going to be a Saturday night character soon.
They won't do it.
Oh, they will eventually as this thing blows up. Her voice, her squeaky, high schooly voice is, I've heard a couple comedians already do it. She's doomed for being mimicked most of her life.
Well, do you think it's she might make some money off of this besides the $5 million they've got hidden over in
Go onto
numbered
YouTube,
account someplace.
Look up the body language things that are out there on her testimony or her statements or whatever her sworn story. There are things that she's doing that are like little kid, you know, swivel in the chair. I'm so cute. You're supposed to believe me because look how innocent I am. And they believe it was practiced, like it was.
Well, doesn't she do that? Doesn't she teach that at school, basically?
Yeah.
What? If you're a PhD, you teach that in school?
Well, she teaches, you know, psychology and how to
body
manipulate.
movement.
Yeah, but see, there were
language.
questions that she was asked about psychology that she answered she didn't know, but she's supposed to be trained in that.
Well,
That doesn't mean she knows just because she's been trained.
you realize if one of my favorite sayings in the whole world is, if you can't do it, teach it.
Yeah.
Right,
And
Dan? How many
and
times?
if you can't do it and you can't teach it, fake it.
Yeah.
I think she's been faking it.
So back in '04, the three of us started doing our radio shows. We never dreamed in a million years we'd still be doing them now. But the concept was pretty simple with the three of us. Each one had a different area of expertise that clients, prospects, people in the community, listeners would have questions about that the other ones didn't know. And it's worked phenomenally well over the years. Phenomenally well. We've been very blessed to have helped a ton of people. We have a good following of people listening to us on the radio, and we appreciate it every minute. And Dan and I probably will be doing these shows when we got one foot in the grave because we really enjoyed doing them.
Well, it's been a very
in
nice.
spite of my gout
It's
on
been
my
it's
foot.
been very nice to do because we do get occasionally really good questions.
Yeah,
People call in or people seek some help and advice, and even though we do get a little up on our tangents every once in a while, we do
What do you mean?
sometimes try to stay
The
loose.
listeners
How about you?
tend to like that, though. Listeners tend to like that.
Well, I mean, to give you some examples, like right now on the insurance side, okay, I'm always telling, the listening audience, hey, these are things that we're working to do or trying to help people at. All right, so here's the things that we've almost getting ready to sign some contracts on. I have another company that is willing to sell you at a very reasonable price a policy that'll pay your hurricane deductible.
Nice.
A policy that will go up to $60,000.
Sorry to laugh,
Yeah,
Dan.
up to
Well, but
60.
hurricane
Well,
deductibles
but
can be
here's what I'm
$50,000,
gonna-
Okay,
$60,000.
but why doesn't your regular carrier just fix that?
They won't.
Well, you
so
got-
so
My
here's the
insurance
thing.
on my
let's,
insurance.
Let's suppose
Yeah.
this policy is $300, which is about where I'm seeing it to be, and let's suppose you have a $10,000 deductible, which isn't that big in hurricane deductible. At $300 a shot, It's going to take you an awfully long time to break even with that $10,000.
30 years.
So if I were to sit here and tell you, do you think you're going to have a hurricane here in the next 30 years?
Yeah.
You're probably going to say, well, yeah.
Why can't my regular insurance just charge me $300 more and lower my deductible?
Well, you know what? They could.
They could.
But you know what? They don't.
And they don't because of reinsurance.
The key thing you have to look at, you're using logic again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
see,
should
but
stop
I'm
that's
that.
twice today you use logic.
But I'm not
Just
done
stop
with my
that.
good news.
Okay.
Let's suppose, and this thing will max out at around 60 grand. It'll also cover your seawall or your dock,
Really?
things that a homeowner's
Things
policy.
that would break, or
Things
could
that,
break.
that could and
Yeah.
that do anything over
Yeah.
open water. Your homeowners does not cover things
no.
over
or
open water.
or your screen porch, which has to have another policy, right?
Has to have an
Its
endorsement.
own. Okay.
So these are things that we're moving forward on. We're moving forward on another company that is going to let me do like investor insurance. Let's say you have 40, 50 homes.
Mm-hmm.
I can put them all on one policy. You can go online, the customer can go online and say, I've added these two this month and I've taken these two away. They'll automatically adjust your bill.
Now let me ask you: if I have these investment properties, let's say I have a couple in Port St. Lucie, and then I've got one on the beach in Fort Pierce.
Doesn't matter.
And there's no damage to these over here, but there's more damage to. Are you covered that way?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a good
In
thing.
fact, they can do them in all 50 states.
Nice.
So,
nice.
you know, we have a lot of clients that have real estate here and in up north or other places.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the goal when we start shopping and talking is to see how can I find a niche that'll help my local people.
340-1590. You know, that's kind of a great wrinkle, Dan, when you think about the amount of work it would go to somebody that has 25 or 30 different rental homes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable that
We have people all the time.
Well, if they're owned, they probably don't cover them, right?
Well,
yes, they
you know,
do.
Here's something else that this is
Liability.
going to allow us to do. Most insurance companies say, hey, we have to insure them for the replacement cost. We don't care what you paid for them.
Yeah.
As an investor, you might have got some good deals. This carrier will let you do a declared value policy. All right,
Okay.
because now, if you want everything covered to replacement value, yeah, you're going to have to insure it for more.
That's kind of like my situation. We did owner builder. It didn't cost me what they say my house would cost
That's
to replace it.
replacement value, sure.
Right.
It didn't cost me that to build it because I did the work myself.
Right.
So my replacement is like a lot more than what I paid to put the house up.
But don't forget, Florida, and I don't know the statute number, but we call it the Florida Fair Value Law, basically, which says if an insurance company says to you, based on the information we have on your home, the size, the square footage, how it's built, blah, 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 the replacement cost is X dollars. And now your house gets totaled out. They can't come back to you and say, oh, you know, you only paid so much for it. You only get what you paid for.
Yeah, but they also don't want me to be fixing it as the homeowner either.
You can do that if you are entitled to pull it as an owner-builder permit. If you can't, in other words, if say you need to be an electrical contractor or have a license to do certain work, they want that to be done by them because they don't want
Well,
you
I do
to.
too.
They don't want you to
Well-
put a penny in that fuse hole and pretend like
Yeah,
it's fixed.
yeah,
Well,
it's
the
working
owner
now.
builder permit doesn't let you necessarily do things like
Absolutely.
electrical or
Right.
plumbing, you know. Yeah, but that's okay. You know, it's hey, I don't want to do the electrical and the
Yeah.
plumbing.
I used to
Especially
do that
the
work. I
electrical.
don't want to do
That's how
that.
my hair got curly.
That finger in the light socket doesn't work.
Yeah.
So anyway, the three of us started doing shows, and then over a period of time, Ms. Victoria Lloyd, Remax of Stewart, joined the group, especially when this last downturn, our Great Recession, hit, because the word real estate all of a sudden became a monster name because of the plummet in the values. Then new words like short sales and then deed backs and foreclosures and all of the different things that changed over a period of time. And it was just a very, very, very interesting time, to put it mildly, going through that. Then Mr. Mike Paulus, mortgage broker, hand in glove with Ms. Victoria Lloyd, because the media kept saying, don't you love the media? I mean, we are the media, right?
No, we're not.
We're not. Good. I feel better. The media said there was no mortgage money available, which was never true. Never. What happened is the rules changed. The rules said, hey, now you got to prove you can afford to make the payment.
So that was sort of like fake news?
Well, it was kind of like fake news, but it was all it was. You got to prove you can make the payment. Can you imagine such a phenomenon as that?
That's not a bad philosophy.
No, that was the rule
You would
forever.
think that would be like the first thing they do.
Well, that was always the rule. Now then, what happens is during bad times, new wrinkles come in to try to get people into housing. What was it, Vic, that we used to have was back when interest rates were 15, 16, 17, they literally had charged a lower interest rate and then added the difference onto the principal of the house. I forget what those were called.
Like creative financing?
Well, those were legal. Those were legal. You could have a mortgage. But anyway, and literally what does happen when people say, well, this will never happen again. Well, I hate to tell you, but man has a tendency to find ways around rules for the benefit of themselves. Not necessarily the benefit of the consumer or the general public, but self-serving.
Well,
I know they do, and then they blamed us for doing it.
Of course.
They said, oh my gosh, we went out and gave all those loans. Well, they had to approve those loans.
Yes, they did.
We followed their guidelines.
Well, the key thing was this, and it was very, very sad, but everybody that got one of these loans, sure as the devil, knew what they were doing, because that was just.
They did know.
But then they come back and say, well, you took advantage of me because, and I said, no, I didn't do it, you didn't do it, but different mortgage companies did. How did they take advantage of you? Well, you allowed me to lie. And I'm telling you, that's exactly what it was.
Well, they said the adjustable rates. They're called an adjustable rate. So let's say you start out at a lower rate and then it would increase after time, a few years. And they said that they weren't qualified at the higher rate. Well, they were. They didn't qualify them on the lower rate. They qualified them on the highest rate.
That was one form. But what happens is this. Everybody that gets these things had to sign documents. Now, does everybody read them? No. Does everybody understand them? No. Were there things that were done improperly or morally or fattening? Of course. But the reality is this. People took that risk to get into housing, and that's just what happened. Now,
And Joe, I cannot blame someone who was told, hey, listen, I can get you into your own home for what you're paying in rent.
yeah.
Why would I not try to do that so I can build up some equity? Because for most Americans, the majority of their true value of their wealth is in the home
That's
that
right.
they own.
That's right.
But it was
should
called
be
no
encouraged.
income qualification. So what it was is they were saying you're a contractor, and you sometimes you don't always get a paycheck. Like you can't show
Right.
the money that
Right.
you get.
You're
So
budgeted.
they're saying you're really getting the money because sometimes you get cash on these jobs, and they're saying I can make $50,000 a year. And they're saying, okay, contractors can make $50,000 a year. And that's what they were doing. Instead of taking your tax returns to
They
see
didn't
what
ask
you're
for
making,
tax returns.
they weren't asking
And
for
don't
those.
they usually charge you a little higher interest rate on
Normally.
those type loans because there's a little bit more risk involved
Normally.
because you don't have all
Normally, and the
everything
interest
done?
rates were a little bit higher than what we have
So
today.
isn't that like sort of to balance it out? It's like a credit card company saying we charge you these higher rates because we have all these other debts that go bad on us and we have to eat them. So you got to help make it up.
That's why you pay 21%.
Yeah.
340-1590, 340-1590. So the concept of the group, very simple, was to educate and to help people understand what's going on. Ms. Victoria Lloyd's only one of the top RE/MAX agents in the entire globe.
She says that I don't know.
I love that. I love
Sounds
that.
good.
It does.
It does, really. I know poor Vic. I've only known Vic since probably 1980. We don't remember exactly when, but it's about then.
Yes, it
And
was in the 80s for sure.
And Vic, just in defense of you, there's not a sweeter person alive than you, or a harder working person, or a more honest person. But and you don't have an arrogant or pretentious bone in your body. Because I know when she came in last year and said, Joe, I'm one of the top 100 agents out of 100,000 in Florida. And I said, Vic, that's in the entire world. There's no 100,000. Well, she says, how am I supposed to know that?
And I just made that again.
I know. Hey,
Yes.
congrats to you.
Thanks.
But it's called you work hard,
Yeah,
and you
I
do
do.
what you say you're going to do.
Yes, I
You
do.
know? And I think that's part of this word integrity. When Dan and I and Greg started this thing up, the most important thing we wanted to do was, quote, integrity. We wanted honest people that are not brand new in business, that have been around here a long time. Dan, you're only 105 years here.
I feel like it sometimes.
But you look great.
Thank you.
See, don't you love when women lie for you?
Hey.
I know.
Not a lie.
340-1590, 340-1590. We started to talk a little bit about politics and what's going on. Now, the vote's on Friday, right?
Well, we don't know. I mean,
I think the vote's going to happen one way or another, no matter what.
I think it should.
Yes, it should.
They've discredited Ford's testimony totally because she can't remember how she got there, how she left, and where it was.
And was she really there?
Other than that, she remembers everything else. It's
Oh, and then she just went up to him at Safeway to say hello afterwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, not,
But they don't
not,
even
not
know
the same guy.
if the Safeway was even operational at
They
that
may not
time.
even had Safeway in her
That's what
neighborhood.
they said.
It's
The grocery store Safeway?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, very sad thing what does happen in American politics, and this is probably the new low.
But it's only sad if you fail to realize that was the objection, the Democratic Party's objective from the inception was to stop it. That was their
Now they're
goal.
saying the way that she spoke during that was because she's a Valley girl, but I'm sorry, she grew up in Delaware.
Yeah.
Did they not have Valley girls
California.
in Delaware?
They don't
No.
have valleys. They don't
No.
Oh,
have
no,
valleys.
I was born in
No.
Washington, D.C., raised in Maryland, so I'm one of those girls.
You're
Yeah,
a
no,
valley.
they don't
You
No, I
you're-
don't know if I'm a Valley
you're not
girl.
even blind.
I haven't even said you don't know that. Half the day I am. Other half I'm not.
Well,
I'm a twofer.
all it amounts to, it's a really, really, really sad thing to watch this thing. Now, this is Joe Martek's opinion. This is nobody else's opinion. This is 1,000% my opinion. I can't believe that woman got up there and did what she did without having a ton of cash stashed someplace for her, someplace out of the country, so that she can retire wonderfully in another year or two.
Well, she has that GoFundMe.
Yeah.
She's probably, I'm just speculating now. She's probably going to have some, made-for-TV movie up the road about how awful she got treated.
Why would she need GoFundMe? I mean, even her high school was privileged.
Because
Every bit of her life has been privileged.
it's a way for me to pay you without it being
But
a
I
problem.
get extra money.
If you wrote a book, let's say you were a controversial person, and you wrote a book, a very bad book, not a good book. Well, it was awful, but I bought 10,000 copies of it, and Joe bought 10,000 copies, and Alan bought 10,000 copies. We're not giving you any money. We're buying your book. All right, now we can give them away, we can burn them, we can do whatever we want with them. But that's a way of people giving you money for stuff that's not worth anything. And so there's ways I can pay you without really writing you a check.
Wrinkles around everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they're doing that.
Okay.
Well, hey, listen,
She'll have a book deal. Don't kid yourself.
you're not kidding.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever noticed, almost everybody writes a book when they.
Well, nowadays, especially because
Whatever
there's
controversy.
so many ways to get published. It's not like
You
And
should
before
write
it
a
used
book,
to be.
Joe.
And half
Yeah,
of them have
right.
somebody else who really
I
wrote
could
it,
write
and
a
they
book.
put their name on it.
Yeah.
Everybody's a soap opera. Some are more entertaining than others.
True.
Let's face it. You were really entertaining till you got married.
Oh, please. Jeez, I'm still entertaining.
Still entertaining.
340.
It's just that I'm entertaining one instead of a group.
Just one.
Yeah, I'll never forget the sliding glass door episode.
Oh my God, I still see myself walking in that sliding glass door at Sailfish Point.
So
They really do a great job. If the maintenance fees are so high, they do a great job.
We were out, and we all were in, I don't know, probably the Crazy Horse. And
No, we were at a Jensen Beach function, a chamber event.
Anyway, she meets this guy there, and he's a nice guy, good looking. He says, well, hey, come out to my place in Sailfish Point. So we go out as a group.
I said, I'm with my friends. He said, bring them.
So we all go out there, and we're all standing out on this 2,000 square foot patio.
Facing the ocean.
And she finally says, are you married? And he goes, oh, yeah. So Vic turns around, and she's leaving, and she smashes right straight into the sliding glass door.
Couldn't leave fast enough.
And I said, oh, they're pretty clean. He says, aren't yours? Sliders.
340-1590, 340-1590. And guess what? We got our faithful listener, Mike, on the radio. Mike, it's Joe Martek. Welcome, my man.
You sure do. Hello. I'm glad that Veronica's there. I have a question I'm hoping she can help me out with this morning. In all my young dating years, I never knew one girl who, if something as horrible as what Dr. Ford says happened, wouldn't have gone straight home to her parents and gotten them up in the night and said, I've been assaulted, raped, and it was Brett Kavanaugh, a boy that I know. Any of them would have made that happen, or at least talk about it at breakfast the next day, or at some point in the next 30 years. how can that be, Veronica? Does that square with reality to you?
Not really, because my question is that wasn't her first party and it also wasn't her last. And she was supposed to be 15 years old. She shouldn't have been with them anyway.
That's the problem, Mike. I look at it. And Victoria, you're saying, I mean, listen, you were a kid once. If you went out to a party that you weren't supposed to go to and your parents didn't know about, and you went to some other kid's house and the parents were out of town, did you tell your parents?
No.
No.
But would you, if something horrible happened to you, something life-changing happened to her that night, wouldn't you then?
Yeah, probably.
As a
Because they would be
15-year-old.
eating at me, and they'd wonder what's wrong with me. Because
Right.
I would be acting very strange.
Yeah.
You'd be moody. They'd say, "Hey,
Of
what's
course.
wrong? What's going on, baby?"
And
you
then
tell 'em.
I'll start crying,
Yeah.
and then I would tell you.
At 15 especially.
And then my father would go kill him.
I know.
You
Mine,
Exactly.
As he should.
minor thing, you know.
It's the truth.
Well, what you're saying, Mike, is, you know, reality. I had 5 daughters at home. So let me just tell you something. You know, the Lord save me, it was a very interesting house, to put it mildly. But, you know, I just talking to my daughter today. Her daughter's 16, in love for the first time.
Ooh.
You know, remember this, Victoria? Mike, remember? I mean,
Of course.
I mean, and the girls, I mean, my granddaughter, her boyfriend just moved to Germany. Well, you know, us grandparents and parents say, "Oh, good," but I used to want my girls to date all bums. I didn't want them falling in love. If you date a nice guy, that could be a problem.
Yeah, but they might fall in love to change him. I've seen that happen too, where I had some what I would call bummier friends, and every one of those women who married him and tried to change him to what they wanted to, and each one of those marriages failed.
Mike?
It just struck me as strange that no one asked her, where did your parents fit into this situation? Because by going home, I assume that meant home to parents.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
she has
And
that.
no one asked
They
her.
have that covered, though. They have that covered. They said, what teenager would tell their parents that they were at a party that they shouldn't have been at?
Well, there you go.
You know, kids would hide that.
Well, I wouldn't
they
have told
that
my parents that unless something terrible happened to me, and then I would want counsel and consoling and whatever I could get from my mom and dad.
You know what? I think, Victoria, you said it, that literally you'd come home and maybe you wouldn't talk to your parents that night, but the next day, if you were traumatized, it would sneak out of you because...
But you would never go back and put yourself in that situation again, and that's not the case with her.
That's
there were
true.
many other parties after that.
Well, you know what, Mike? You remember those party girls that we used to like?
Yep.
Well, interesting enough, there was a movie out there, and it was a true story about a gal that was a teenager, and she wanted to have sex with the guy, and the guy turned her down and said, you shouldn't be doing this. And what she did is accused him of doing it because she was upset because
I'll get
she
you back.
felt like, how could
Yeah.
you talk to me like this and do these things to me? So,
All of this sounds like a Lifetime movie.
absolutely.
And,
Yeah,
and as
yeah,
I
yeah.
said, there's where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
Big mistake that the president made was making such enemies of the Clintons and the Bushes. This, to me, has the stink of the Clintons all over it. I think it's payback, and I don't think it's going to stop. That's my own opinion.
Well,
if
you
you
know,
watch the Clinton Chronicles, you'll know what they were like.
There is a picture with her and Bill. It's a few years old.
Ah,
So, maybe she has those two people confused.
There's a picture with Ford,
Yeah.
with Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Bill might have liked her. She's good-looking blonde.
yeah. Well, it's all really harmful and disruptive and non-productive. I worry the day is going to come when a wall will have to be built right down the middle of the country, dividing left from right.
Well, the good
I'm
news is
afraid that
we're on the right side
We
of
want
the
to
wall.
keep
though.
all the good stuff.
Well,
On the east-
we won't live long enough to see that.
I'm
Mike.
afraid it'll happen, or we're going to wind up with an open shooting war, and it'll be like the mid-1800s again. I'm very worried about it.
Well,
America's getting scary now.
It's true.
But you know what? You can't, in defense of you, Mike, try talking to a liberal, period, today.
No, I can't.
You
And
can't.
they're in my own family.
I know.
It's impossible.
Oh, they're in mine big time, too. I can't talk to my son. I can't talk. I mean, I literally, my daughter and my two oldest, my one oldest is an extreme conservative, and my son's an extreme liberal. Nobody can talk to him about anything, but the first words out of his mouth, and it's my brother, too, is that he's a buffoon. Well, that's what they want to start with the conversation.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
But when you say why, okay, tell me why.
No, you can't do that.
There's no why.
Then it
you
just
can't,
gets
yeah.
more emotional.
You can't.
What
Petty
happened?
things. They bring up petty things and just attack and
My
go
bro-
with what they're being told from so many stations on TV and everywhere they look and read, that
Yep.
they're believing it because they want to, and it makes
I
it
think you
easier
hit
for
it
them to
because
believe it.
my brother had a good one. What about under the administration? Now, he didn't use the administration. He said, under the president, they're killing elephants in Africa. And I said,
Something.
I said,
So into it.
I said, Eric, I made a mistake. Where in the world did you get that from? Now, that was a stupid comment from me because now
You knew better, huh?
the rampage started. All it amounted to. But on the other hand, Mike, listen, I am looking at everything positive that's coming out of this administration, and
Absolutely.
every day it keeps getting better.
You do have to look harder, though, to find it because the media is not putting it out there.
No.
And there's a lot of great things that have happened.
Oh, unbelievable.
But it's this side, that side.
On the other
The other
hand,
side doesn't think that it's great.
if we look at James Cargill, I call him Cargill all the time, Carville under Clinton, he used to say, hey, it's the economy, stupid. No matter what, it's their paycheck. And if you look at bread and butter America, if we watch Clinton's, his last few, not Clinton, Trump's last few big events, 10,000 people packing.
They had 90,000 in this most recent one because it was a bigger
venue.
venue. It was like a
Great.
stadium or something.
Unbelievable.
I try to never miss him on C-SPAN. Evidently, I missed something great yesterday. I don't know how, but I missed this.
Well, I watch Fox News, and normally they bring up most of that stuff. But hey, the bottom line is, I am predicting a massive sweep for the Republicans in the midterms, because no matter all of the stuff that the Dems are throwing out, what they can't do is say the man has not accomplished what he's promised to do better than anybody that's been in his job in my lifetime.
But they hate his promises.
Hey, look at
That's
point.
the problem.
Listen, I love his promises because they're working.
Well, they hate you too.
Of course, that's only right. It's only right.
And they want to subvert the will of those who elected him, and that's subversion. That's what troubles me.
Because
Well-
they hate the voters more than they hate him, actually.
Listen, hey, what are we, despicables? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Deplorable.
Deplorables.
Deplorable.
There's a movie called Despicable Me.
Yeah, there is kind of cute.
Hey, Mike, thanks for calling in, my man.
Yes, thank you all.
Hey, and we have another caller here. We got Pat. Pat's on the radio. It's Joe Martek. I hope you are. Pat, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey,
What's going on?
welcome, my
Hey.
man. Welcome.
Thanks. Yeah, he was talking about, remember that famous line that Chuck Schumer said to Donald Trump? He said, you mess with the intelligence agencies, they got 6 ways to Sunday to get back at you. Well,
Our buddy Chucky.
Doesn't anybody wonder why her brother or her father or anybody isn't interviewed? It's like she doesn't have a family.
Yeah.
Because they're all in the CIA. They all work for the CIA. So this is just the shadows on the wall. This is like some other fight that they're having.
Yeah, her brother supposedly works for Fusion GPS, believe that or not.
Fusion
Now, I don't
GPS.
know if they verified that, but I did hear that.
That's absolutely verified.
Okay, all right.
That's why I'm saying you're never going to get the news right because everybody's got these connections where they're not telling you. Why wouldn't they tell you that?
Well, you know
Why
what?
wouldn't they tell you everything about Kavanaugh and tell you nothing about the girl?
Well, why hasn't the person who actually drove her there or drove her home, why haven't they said, hey, it was me, I drove her?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
guess what?
exactly.
Maybe no one ever drove her because the party never really happened.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Totally.
There's no way of knowing.
Totally.
Well, did
Yeah,
they
no,
use like the theory of you can't ask certain questions because it make her feel bad, and we don't want to make her feel bad
Right.
already because she already feels traumatized, and we don't want to add misery to her, so we must treat her with kid gloves. And that was the way I viewed her interrogation, for lack of a better term. It was done with kid gloves.
Time heals things. And,
I like the part where she.
That's so ridiculous to say that we're going to just walk on eggshells like
But-
it happened last weekend.
And that's
But-
the
But
truth.
that's what they did, Pat.
But
That's what they did.
she was pushed, so according to her, pushed in a room, pushed on a bed, and her clothes never came off, and someone may have touched her.
But they laughed at her, and that was the most traumatizing thing that she
the one that got me
Oh,
was someone held her hand over her mouth, and she thought that she would be
Who's
killed.
going to die?
That was the new one.
Why wouldn't she bite the
You
finger?
know,
You could have just bit him, yeah. The one
know,
I
they-
like, though, is she had to put an extra door on her house.
I don't. Yeah,
That's the escape
I don't
door.
get that.
That's the escape door.
I don't get that.
I'm telling.
She needed another way to get out.
I'm telling
She needed
you,
another
and that
way
was
to get out. She's gonna run outside. She'd be more safe out there.
and
Wouldn't
that was
she be more safe
25.
around people?
That was 25 years later, and then
That was the craziest thing when she said that. I knew exactly what she was. I said, because I know how crazy she is. I said, she's as crazy as a loon tune.
and
I said, this is beyond crazy because that guy Flake, I believe, was the one who gave that the lady from Kansas or wherever the heck she was from. She was asking the wrong questions. The questions were, what did you go upstairs for? How long were you in that room? And how did you learn that karate move to get away from two guys?
yeah.
What karate
Oh no!
did you take?
Supposedly they were so drunk they fell down.
See what
Well, I heard that one of them pounced on the bed and she flew off and she ran right. She got scuttled into the bathroom. She just like some kind of cartoon thing.
Hey, our owner's husband just came in and brought me a note, and here's the quote. The professor once taught a class in San Jose on how to beat a lie detector. Can you imagine that?
Well, did we get to see what questions were even asked?
Yeah, no.
So.
I think there were two questions I heard on the news program. They asked her
Two
two questions, and basically one said, "Did you lie?" and one said something similar to that. And they were nothing
Yeah.
questions.
Do we know yet who paid for that?
I don't know.
We don't know.
Who cares who paid for it?
Well, we all pay for it.
We
all paid.
assume it was her attorneys.
Yeah.
Hey, listen.
Who were assigned to her by, what's her name? Feinstein.
Feinstein's
Yeah.
office. They recommend.
Yeah,
it.
well,
Yeah. Recommended.
Feinstein, I wish they would have turned the tables on her and
I
said,
guess.
we really need to be doing this 16-year-old, the 16-year-old, the 16-year, your driver.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
China.
The
That's
spy,
what we really
the
need
spy
to be
who
talking
came out of the
about.
cold.
Hey, Pat, listen, thank you for so much for calling in, and call us
Hey,
in
thanks a
regularly.
lot.
We love to hear from you.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
and we got another caller. We got Russ. Russ, this is Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Yeah, I was just curious if this guy were a Democrat and they had to go back 36 years to find two piddly little things, wouldn't the guy be sainted? I mean,
I think so. Yeah, I think he was canonized, right? You know, didn't we take him?
that's insane.
Well, you know, Russ, it's a and Mike said it. It's a very sad time in our history when this thing gets to this point, and we take
Right.
and look at a unbelievably celebrated, educated, sophisticated, accomplished federal judge for years and years and years, and go back to when he was 16.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, Russ, I was 16. Dan was 16. You were 16. Are you proud of everything you did when you were 16?
Oh, heck no. If they'd have had YouTube back then, they'd have probably taken me out in the backfield and shot me.
I'm telling you, every kid that I know, now let me tell you, the whole thing was when we were kids, we wanted to be having fun. So we find the fun group, right?
That's correct.
Right.
I mean,
it couldn't be anything your parents would do.
And listen, I remember we had what I call grassers when we lived up north. We were out in the country. Grassers meant we'd all show up in a field, and our cars would not be seen from the road, and somebody would have a keg of beer, and we were, who knows how old we were, but old enough to get there by car, whether we were driving or old enough to get in the car. And invariably, or half the time, the police would find us, and they'd never take and arrest one kid. But
They take the beer.
They pour it out in
take-
front of you
take
and
the
make
No,
you
beer.
they just took the beer.
Oh,
And they
okay.
called every parent they knew
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, your kid was doing this, and you know what happened? The old man took care of you."
Uh-huh.
That's true. So you like beer too? So did he.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
said.
Well,
I think
So
that's a
I
crime.
had a-
That's
Hey,
a crime
listen.
these days.
Oh my gosh.
When we were kids, it didn't make any difference whether it was Ripple, Boone's Farm, or the cheapest beer we could find. It made no difference.
You know, I drank water and I was just crazy, and that's.
Well,
people
you've always
couldn't-
been crazy.
I
You
know,
don't need
and
it.
people used to say to me, "What are you doing? I want some." I said, "I swear, I'm not doing anything.
High on life.
This is me." Oh God!
Hey,
and
my
don't
man.
give me a lemon, I'll go
Russ.
crazy.
Thanks for calling in, my man.
Yep.
340-1590, 340-1590. And here we go from the northern hinterlands. We've got Bulldog up in the frozen
Hey,
chosen.
Bulldog.
Bulldog, how you doing, my man?
Hey, hi Vic, good to see you there.
Yeah, how are you?
Hey, just doing fine, honey. Give me a
Good.
call sometime, would you please?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, great. Hey, You know, Joe, going back to college, man, we had kegers in the frat house.
Yep.
And, you know, the whole sorority would show up or, you know, this and that and the other thing. And things went on, and I got to tell you, back in the day, I mean, come on, right?
Yeah. Hey, and listen,
But the girls didn't want to be there. They were held against their will, correct?
Oh, yeah, right. They were getting drunker than we were.
Well,
come on.
No, because there were red Solo cups and grain alcohol, and you were making them drink it.
That's it. Remember that? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
If you really had a sophisticated party, you had a punch bowl. If you had an unsophisticated party, you just had
okay,
beer.
I have to ask you, in what year did we have punch? When did we stop spiking punch?
When did we
stop? In the 50s?
When did we stop?
No, 70s.
In the 80s, punch. I don't believe there was
70s.
punch.
In the 70s. Yeah, absolutely.
They always had punch.
I'm sorry, we had beer. It was in cans.
No, they had punch.
No,
I mean, that was our parents.
Those were the uppity parties.
Yeah, they were the uppity parties.
In our grassroots, we had beer and Ripple or
no
Goons
punch bowl.
Farm.
There was no punch.
No. Just the, like he said.
Well, the last party
generation.
I went to that had punch, it had Believers Brew and Pagans Punch, so you knew what you were drinking.
Okay.
Yeah. Was that Halloween?
No.
Close enough, so close
enough.
enough. Hey, Bulldog, other than that, are you frozen up there yet?
No, man, I wish it would cool down, though, a little bit.
Supposedly a front came through. Did you get some rain and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Did the yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, it rained quite a bit.
It rained here, too.
A little bit.
I think
I heard
that's
someone
from Leslie that's sitting out there somewhere.
I heard someone say recently here in Florida that it's the third week in October. There's your weather change. That summer's definitely over. Third week in October.
It'll be down to
No,
81,
Halloween.
82.
So Halloween up north.
I can't wait to see. I'm from Chicago. It snows on Halloween.
Yeah, you're dressed up, ready to
It
go
wasn't-
out, and you got to wear a coat.
There was not a change. That was called Frozen Chosen.
It was. It was horrible.
And
And I wouldn't wear a coat because I wasn't going to cover up my costume.
you know, being from Chicago, because I moved here from Illinois, and I do remember that. And here's a funny story too. I was like going, "Hey, baby, how's the sweet corn, looking? Let's have that for dinner and everything." But the problem with it is, it's harvested earlier there, and here we don't get it. So my whole season is thrown off, with like sweet corn or pumpkins and things like that.
Yeah, we don't get the corn from up there down here either because it's just not as good.
Get it from the Glades.
It doesn't make it.
You
can get some good sweet corn from the Glades, but it
Absolutely.
has to be only in the Glades.
You got to know.
But it has to be non-GMO.
You gotta know. Like
Can't be
Dan said,
GMO.
you gotta know where it's coming from.
I lived in Rockford, Illinois, and a little town called Rockton, which is just north of there, and they have the like sweet corn festival.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did too in Maryland. The queen
corn
Yeah.
that you don't see that here. I mean, it's big, it's yellow, it's just delicious.
340-1590. We got. Hey, Bulldog, I got two more callers waiting. You got any more good news for us?
Oh no, I'll bump off and let your guys get on.
Thank you, my man.
Bye.
All right,
Thanks.
Terry, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
No, that one for some reason that line is.
That Terry didn't work. He's on two. It
It's lit
says.
up like someone's on that line. Let's go to this one.
Let's go
see
to
if I
this
can
one.
trace
Fine. We'll
Terry.
go to Jeff. Jeff, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Martek.
Okay.
Yes, it is. How you doing, Jeff?
Good. Listen, I don't know if this is true or if it's not true, but I'm going to ask you if you heard it or you saw it.
Hello?
She said she went to the Safeway after the
Yeah.
incident
Right.
or something.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the Safeway wasn't even built in 1982. It was built in 1986.
No kidding.
What was the location of that Safeway? Because I'm from that area.
Um,
What year was that? Is she
Hold it
saying?
a second. I can probably forward you this article. I mean, it's got the building plan and the
I had heard that, Jeff, that it would have been very easy to,
verify
her testimony because the permits would show the building had not even been built yet. So she fabricated that.
The key thing that happened is, as the person that was doing the interview said, the credibility is gone because she doesn't know how she got there, didn't know how she left,
But you got to
or
remember,
where it
Joe,
was.
the other side of the aisle is going to say the poor baby was traumatized. She doesn't remember if it was Safeway or Quick Check or A&P.
But you would not ever go near that person again.
But I'm just telling you
No,
how they
they're
do this.
They're not being real about this.
They're not. But they're going to look for anything to justify her story.
Yeah. Hey, we all know it, Jeff. Listen.
And it can't be justified anymore.
No.
And even the media that has snuck out a little bit, just a tiny bit, has discredited her testimony.
And so here's the thing. Was I wrong when she got up and put up her hand to swear the truth? Now, all the things that we now hear are lies. Are those things that she can be held
technically
go to jail for?
Doing that to begin, that's what I'm trying to
They're
say.
supposed to. That's what they tell us.
And that's why
right?
I think she's saying so much that she doesn't remember. That's a
caveat.
Ronald Reagan did that when he had Alzheimer's.
Well, those
That's
are
a
the things that
caveat.
she can't say yes or no to.
Well, if you don't
That's what
remember,
I'm saying.
you can't. You're
That's
not
right.
lying.
Right.
But
How did I get there? I
Like
don't
Jeff
remember.
was saying, she didn't say yes or no. She specifically said the name of the store, when it happened, and where she saw him.
Yeah.
And if all of that is not true, then maybe she's legally in trouble. I don't know.
Wouldn't hurt.
Defense attorney.
Well, but we're going to be such evil people for holding her feet to the fire.
Isn't that the truth?
We have no soul.
Well, you know what? Republicans are not allowed to lie. Only Democrats. You know that.
But the flip side of this could be this: if we were expecting this big blue wave in the midterms, and this ignites the base that says, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'm going to definitely make sure I get out to vote to make it heard. It may backfire on them big time.
Yeah.
Listen, if the independents, quote, let's say there really are independents, if the independents should be just as fed up as every conservative, and a bunch of Democrats, the old Dixiecrats, remember? These are conservative people that their only reason they're a Democrat is because their daddy was and their granddaddy was, and I mean, that's just the way it is. They can't take, when you take the biggest Christian group or any religious group and looks at it, I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, or whatever, to take and believe these lies and stay with that group. It's just really hard for me to imagine that this isn't going to be a monster. I forget the polls. Remember, there's no way in the world that Trump got elected because all the polls said he couldn't, and he didn't, right? And he did anyway. So the polls...
Well, because the people weren't honest with the polls. They weren't saying.
Well,
I've had a lot of people tell me I didn't leave the Democratic Party. They left me.
Yeah.
And I believe that'll happen.
Yeah.
Alan has something to say. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that the defense attorneys love it when an accuser uses the words "I can't recall" or "I don't recall." That really helps the defense side. And if you look at the Republicans as being defending Kavanaugh, all of the "I don't recall" and "I don't remember," that just plays into Kavanaugh's hands.
Sure.
Which,
Actually, looking at a Safeway Incorporated document of some kind that says that is this information. Safeway store number. What's the store number? Store the Dr. Ford claimed in 1982 didn't open until 1986.
Where was it located? Does it say? The one you're
I'm trying to.
Vic,
New York,
that's your
New York.
neighborhood, right, Victoria?
How do I send this to you guys? Is there a way I can send it to you?
Would you have
I can put him on hold to get email.
You put an email. Listen, let me give I'll give you an email.
Okay.
Just send it to Martek, MARTEK 03
ARGEK
03 at bellsouth.net.
At Bell.
And we can discuss it next week.
Then we can bring it up on the radio.
Yeah,
We'll
because
have
I want to know the area that it was in.
Yeah.
What area of the town it was
should
in.
show it
Because we don't know if it'll be over by next week. They say it will, but we don't know.
We don't know for
We
sure.
said this last week.
And you can forward it to me.
I can forward it, yeah.
Yeah, it's Safeway Incorporated. There's an F number up there. I'm gonna send it to you. That way you'll know, Joe. That way, I don't know if it's fake news or what. Some of this stuff is, I don't know how they do that.
Hey, listen. If you start believing anything that you read and anything you hear, you're in trouble.
Yeah, but you can follow that up pretty easy with a permit. I work for the building and zoning in Maryland
It's
also.
easy enough to check stuff. These are county records, and these are all official records.
So, Jeff, it's good that you, unlike so many other people, are taking the time to do a little investigating on your own
Definitely.
to know
Oh,
what you're
sure it
talking
is.
about, and that's
Well,
great.
You know, I sit there and I look at this whole situation. You know, I'm just trying to be just totally. I'm not on anybody's side here. Let's just say about this.
Hey, Alan, I have
You
a
got
question for
somebody
you
that's
too.
waving her hand and saying, "He did this. He did this. It was him. It was him. It was him. It was him," but yet none of this is going together. I mean, this is. I mean, you can be traumatized, and everybody that I've heard call anywhere remember everything about
I will
that
tell you.
night they were traumatized.
Listen, I'll tell you this. Last time I was
know.
taken advantage of by a woman, I remember it vividly.
Yeah, that was probably.
You're still traumatized.
You smile the whole
Yeah, we
time.
see the wounds. We see the wounds. That's so funny. So where's our statute of limitations, though?
There is
I mean,
no,
how?
this is
But
not.
that's not it. There
this is
wasn't
not
even
a
a crime.
This is not a crime. They're
It's
just
not a
looking
crime.
to appoint him
There
or
was no
not
crime.
appoint
And
him.
he got mad.
I know, but how
Why?
far back can somebody accuse you of doing something
3
like
years
that?
old, probably. Who knows?
I can accuse you
Well, they
forever
said
if
it
I
up,
want.
up there where it's at.
That's
it's,
just ridiculous.
Well, of course
they
it's
could do it
ridiculous.
for open, but what I'm trying to say is, have you ever noticed that none of them ever get in any trouble? You know, that guy got lied to the FBI, all that stuff. They put our guys in jail real quick.
Yeah.
You
Little
know what I'm saying?
hey, listen. All I know is
That guy that mouthed off in the meeting, Struck, whatever his name was.
yeah,
He's all
yeah.
over the place on lying and getting caught and all. As a matter of fact, he got canned for lying. Why didn't he go to jail for lying?
Well, it's not. Hey,
Let's hope that's still coming down the
let's
pipe.
hope it's coming
right.
down.
We've got about 2 minutes in the show. You got one more person on hold.
Let's do it.
Bye.
Hey, let's
Thank
take.
you for
Thank you so
calling.
much. We got another caller. And where is
Terry,
that?
it's Terry.
Hey, Terry, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Joe, all I have to say is if the guy fails, big deal. They'll just find another one, and the Democrats will find somebody from Russia that he has dated. Do you agree with me?
The Russian collusion.
There's got to be Russian collusion. We know that.
Maybe even Kavanaugh had met a Russian prostitute in his youth.
Why not? Why not? Hey, listen. I think you should bring that up and send that to them. They can use it.
You think he did this?
Hey.
I also think that there ought to be a limit on lifetime. It ought to be 12 years for the Supreme Court
Well,
judge.
now you got to change the Constitution. That'd be tough.
No,
But
And
hey,
one more thing. I threw a party when I was in Indiana, and a college professor woman showed up, and she patted every man on his butt, including me. They're looking to shine up men to get dates, to put them down, make all kinds of trouble for us. Do you agree?
hey, listen. You're still traumatized, right?
Yeah.
Terry.
Thanks.
I'm going to call Victoria after the
Excellent.
show.
Hey, Terry, we have to go. We got
the music coming
we
in.
got
that's it.
We're on our way. Hey, listen, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling in. You know, we're not done with this debacle yet. Until next week.
Thank you. Bye.
You've been listening to the Team Martek Hour. The Team Martek Hour is a paid program. The content was provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership were not responsible for its content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Tune in again next Wednesday at 11:05 for the Team Martek Hour here on WPSL 1590.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.